Came back from the morning sitting. This is day 11. I kept counting 1 to 60, and each finger, so 10 of them, correspond to about 25 minutes. But this morning I didn't go much farther than maybe 8 fingers or 7 fingers. But what I felt is I can count and I can be in a state of no mind. That is to be modified. It's not no mind. I have 3 or 4 ideas popped up. That was quite interesting. So it was not delusionally, but the point here is that with zazen, the sitting, I realized the counting doesn't bother. I thought about the professional golf players. After they finish the round, they remember what happened, which hole, which stroke, and what happened to the right or to the left. So they have such a memory. So what this indicates actually is quite interesting, that our body and mind, how it's constructed, can have such a deep wisdom to do lots of things like counting and thinking at the same time, or counting and meditating, or playing the golf but remembering everything, and can retrieve it. So I want to talk about it, but let's start from the beginning of how it happened, this meditation. At the beginning I was focusing on counting at the same time, posture. So I'm doing 2 things, so to speak, at the same time. Counting in mind and body at the same time. And if I can count precisely, and I can sit calmly and quietly, I'm accomplishing both. In a way, it points that the mind and the body can function together. So that's one. But also, I thought about this bird sitting on the electric wire analogy, which is that the bird is sitting and balancing. And the balancing is to keep the tree not to fall. And it's the same process like when I sit, my body is standing straight, and I'm aware what's going on, and not too rigid, so that I have the leeway, movement. And that movement happens somewhat consciously but unconsciously. And the idea is to have it done without thinking, consciously. And more we can do that, more you can have a peaceful state without being troubled how to do this. So that the foot or feet doesn't hurt, or you don't have a pain in the back. So yesterday perhaps I mentioned about my right foot was painful, and for whatever the reason I came up with a better positioning of not having a high sitting cushion. They call it zafu, but more flat. And that turned out to be one of the insight that was good. So I can sit without much concern about the pain. And it's been going on maybe 3-4 rounds of meditation, So that was interesting. So I just want to mention that, and in relation to that, balancing to the middle way. Maybe taking more time to get to this, but the middle way to me is a balancing act. For example, not too much mind and not too much body, one-sided, but both at the same time, and balance it. So it's not just sitting, but I mentioned about the case of the surfing, or I can extend that balancing to the notion of the middle way. And then this is the first sitting. I thought, yes, that's Ichinyo, the two paradoxical things being one, accomplishing those two in one, like mind and body in one. And the analogy of that is life and death. In our mind, we may separate, but in reality, life and death is one of the teaching of Buddha. I don't know why it happened and how it happened, but it went on to this word Seishi Chinyo, which means life and death being one. And Shinjin Ichinyo, brain or the mind and body is one, is another paradoxical thing resolved. And maybe I may have mentioned that Meister Eckhart saying something of that nature related to Godhead, but maybe I shouldn't get into it too much. But the point is oneness. There may be a contradiction, a paradoxical relationship, but there's a separation, but there's no separation when you are aligned. So that's the story back to the bird on the electric wire. But you can also say life and death is balancing. We are living and we are dying, and we are having a state to process it. Some part of the cells are dying and we're not using, but the new cells may be born, as an example. Or the hair may be getting gray and different, but we have a way of managing. So it's also the notion of Dogen, Zengo Saidan, front and back being sharply cut. Spring doesn't become summer, but that's how mind thinks. But in reality, if you call that, it's only one moment, each moment. So it's separate, but it's connected. It's like A equals, A is not A, but it is A. So that's the notion of middle way, and I thought about Nagarjuna, but let's make sure that we don't get lost with the thinking too much of the concept. So I have discussed about the three analogy of life. What it means is that there's a root and the trunk and the branches and being one, and what's underground, maybe I haven't mentioned this way, is like unconscious part, or you can call it the body, and the above is the mind, or unconscious to conscious, or heart to brain, or body to mind, but they are one. living being as we are, have the root and suck up the nutrition, have the energy source spreading out, and work with what's going on with the branches to get the sun and process things and balance out so that the tree can grow. And the image I came up with, the point that I was talking about, the middle way, was starting with the bird on the electric wire. Is again, those two may be seen as different, like a mind and body, but they are one. Shinjin Nichinyo, mind and body is one. So that thought, I thought, may help us to understand the relationship of seemingly unrelated things, may be related to each other and have a connection. And if we understand that, you may have this tree analogy of logic, tree analogy of life may be understood. That subject I talked in like 4 or 5 videos already. Maybe I may want to go back and clarify what's there and what I'm talking about here. But this thought may help thinking toward this artificial super heart versus artificial super intelligence. One is down below, ASH, the other one is up on the tree branch, and both need to work out to have a good balance. So it's like awakening, not mind going ahead without body, but mind going with the body, balancing, middle way, connection, know the root, where we came from, and be awakened how it helps us to grow. Without that, tree on its own, with the branches, cannot sustain, just like I cannot sustain sitting in certain form, but to be flexible, to balance out the position and the mind. If the mind is too occupied, you may not see what the body is doing. So last point, maybe to conclude this piece, is maybe this was the second round. What I said was the first round of the zazen, or sitting, and the second round I was kind of digesting all. And what happened is this. When I thought about what I mentioned up to now, and do nothing, and stay in calm and quiet mind state, samadhi, then I had this image, which is known in the Lotus Sutra. At the beginning, they talk about the Buddha awakened, so to speak. And when it happened, it is explained the Eastern way of looking to see everything as it is. I may not be translating from Japanese to English, but the East direction, shining, are the 3 words to point the concept of looking at one direction and see the whole thing clearly as it is. So that was the introduction of the Lotus Sutra. And what it indicates is that when you have that awareness of looking in the East, which to me is looking at the inside of the brain, or perhaps brain and body, and know what's going on. So it's awakened state. And in that state, that introduction explained Buddha could see everything in the mind. What happened, what's going on, where, and in the world, and whatever. Maybe his background, his history, everything is shown in that moment when he saw to the east. And one story by Nakayama on that, because he's the one who shared this with me in his book too, is that's the moment of awakening, and he can see all the memories, what happened, and all the context of it, not being biased, but as it is. And that's when I thought that expression may explain why the pro golfer remember what happened on the ninth hole. On the second shot, the ball went to the left, and to the grass, it was behind the tree, all that kind of memory. So, as much as the memory can be found in such a manner, if you have a mind calm and quiet, then you can connect to the root, see the whole, and have a good memory to know what's going on, and you can explain that. So what I'm saying is, like what I talked about has lots of stuff in it, but if you know it and how they are related, then you can grasp, or without grasping, the story become apparent, so that you can do things when it's needed, why it's needed, and how it's needed can be addressed real time as wisdom. Something like that. Maybe AI can help to digest what I said, and we can read what the AI says, and I can see, because GPT can do this, so that I can put the summary, or AI's capturing those points if they can, and I can share that in the description. Everything is related to each other, like Indra's nest. Informations may look scattered, and there may be a wall in between, and we don't see it because it's not transparent. It's the idea of a brick wall or silo syndrome. But as such, if we have a calm and quiet mind and know what's going on, over time, we may find that we are like a tree growing, and all the elements working well, and to see the whole picture clearly. Or even if it's not clear, you get the sense of what's going on. So if there's a danger in certain branch or certain root, there's a way to notice it, so that we can have this Zen Kigen, full utilization and potential to live well. So that's the morning meditation. Thank you. And I hope that may all beings be happy, represent the growth of the tree and the forest working together, brain and heart as well. May all beings